And I think if there's a reason that we're here in this lifetime, in this life, is yes, to be love and to give love and to receive love, but also to fully self actualize. And that can mean breaking relationships and that can mean quitting jobs. And that's the price we pay so that we can be as fully realized as we can in the body and in the manifestation that we are in this lifetime.
This is Story to Count with Jen Jumba. In conversations with writers, something magical happens, and as readers, we begin to see them as human beings and not just the name on the spine of a book. And my hope is through these conversations, you learn about their craft, them as a person, and you'll become like me. Fiercely loyal, want to read their current book, entire backlist, any future book, or any book they blurb. And when you see their name, you'll want to support them, not only as the incredible storytellers, but also the thoughtful individuals you have come to know. So I'm super excited because my guest today is Kat Margulis. She is multifaceted and an incredibly talented human being. She's a Toronto-based author, speaker, and narrative strategist, which she does to help others ditch the stories that no longer fit so they can create what comes next. We all need a little Kat in our lives. Kat spent years telling stories for publications like Elle Canada, Globe and Mail, and Today's Parent, and helping brands like Walmart and Fairmont do the same. She says that words have always been my way through and my way forward. For years as a journalist, magazine editor, and content strategist, chasing titles, hitting milestones, and playing by the rules. Until one day she gained clarity by realizing she was more than just the titles and ready for a new adventure. Kat helps people find the power in their own stories, whether that means writing the book they've always been circling for years, stepping onto a bigger stage, or navigating a life that no longer follows the script. And not only does Kat talk the talk, but she walks the walk and published Again, Only More Like You, her debut novel, which we're going to talk about today. She is a big believer in story, not just the book she published, but in the story we tell ourselves and how it shapes our view of the world. On top of being a writer, speaker, and narrative strategist, Kat is also a mom of 4 and understands what it's like to build something meaningful in the middle of full sea and a complicated life. And I can't help repeating her advice. If you're standing at the edge of something, you know you're not alone. You're just in the middle of a story that is still unfolding. Kat, I'm so excited to talk to you about your story and the unfolding with your debut novel, Again, Only More Like You.
Jen, thank you so much. I'm going to cry. I've got goosebumps. That was a beautiful intro. Thank you.
Well, you are incredibly talented. Again, Only More Like You is your debut novel. So first of all, congratulations on that. I think at one point, all of us have said, I'd love to write a book. I think I should write a book. I'm going to write a book. You followed through and you did it. Can you introduce everybody to Again, Only More Like You?
Yeah. Again, Only More Like You is about best friends, and their lives have taken them in completely different directions. One is a mom with many children, career working mom, and the other one is her best friend, Allie, who is living the single life of romance and adventure. And they find their lives falling apart at the same time, just as they're approaching their 40th birthday. And it's a story about friendship and friends that have grown apart over time and losing yourself and finding each other again through all of that.
It's a wonderful story. I mean, these two characters, Carmen and Allie, are terrific. And I think it's something we can all relate to. I think about us all growing up, that we're with everybody in the same class, in school growing up, in the same neighborhood, same physical proximity. And then we go to college and then we're with another group of people in close proximity. And then after college, it's almost like a diaspora. Like people just move and people are physically separated from one another and not that same close bond of just being able to walk across the hall or go down the street to catch up with friends. And so it is challenging to maintain friendships, and they're across the country from one another at times. And so I think it's a very, very relatable story. And you talk about the theme of friendship coming up. And you also talk about the fact that they both have very different careers. Well, Allie is a marine biologist, which is super cool. And Carmen is running this magazine. She's the big magazine editor for the top circulating magazine at the pinnacle of her career. And at the same time, there's themes that emerge. I think they both find themselves trying to figure out what defines them. Will you talk a little bit about how that influenced your story with your own experience?
Absolutely. There's just so much there. Yeah. It's interesting because my eldest son is graduating high school this year and he's going to college and university. And for a while now, everybody's asking him, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what are you going to do? And what are you committed to? And it's interesting because we make that decision so young with whatever tools and self-awareness that we have in that moment. And we build a life around that. And then you do that for about 10 or 20 years. And then you might question, which is the question that that I came up against, which is like, can I do this for another 20 or 30 or 40 years that I might have in me? Can I change my mind? But at that point, the stakes are so high. And that's why I love writing about midlife women and people in midlife, is because the stakes are so high. It's not footloose and fancy free. Even for Allie, who is, maybe the workspace isn't so challenging, but what I experienced in my life with a lot of my friends and the women that I know was reaching 40, and that Prince Charming hasn't arrived yet, and the biological clock is ticking, and the question of, can I do this? Can I do this alone? Do I want motherhood so bad that I'd be willing to make whatever compromises that might require? And how much longer do I hold out for that guy, for the one? And so regardless of whether you're a working mom and dealing with the work-life balance, or, single and wondering if you are going to have that, happy ending, both found ourselves in this similar inflection point of, okay, I got some calls to make some really life-changing decisions. And where do I begin?
It's a great question, and I can relate because I spent nearly 20 years in sales and marketing before I switched careers to become a librarian. So I can remember thinking, like, is this something I really want to do? And I have a cool library origin story for another time, but I remember sitting there and thinking, like, this isn't what I want to do. What do I want to do? Once you identify that, then it's moving in that direction. And it's not easy for people to change careers. Otherwise, I think more people would do it and not be so unhappy or frustrated or resentful. But it's easier to do all that extra work, to go back to grad school when you know it's what you want to do. Because when I was 18, 19 years old, did I know what I wanted to do? No. And life experience kind of informs those things. So I think it's so great that you capture and you show two women who are at that point where they're wanting to decide, what do I do next? And have that sense of agency to follow that through.
Yes. Yeah, it's a fascinating, fascinating time. And 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 yeah, I think it's a quiet story in a way, because it's the biggest stories are existential dilemmas, right? That's like the most important story we can ever confront. And yet, as a novel, it's a quieter story, but I think it's an important one. And I really needed it. I really needed this book when I was at that time in my life and I couldn't find it. And, as the saying goes, if there's a book that you want to read and you haven't found it yet, you get to be the one to write it.
Well, thank goodness you wrote it, and you wrote it in a way that's not, here's another nonfiction, step by step, how to completely change your life. It's through relatable experience. And I think most of us can relate to that. Even if we're not married with several kids, we have friends who are, and there's never that pause. There's never that sense of, okay, I can just put this on hold right now and I can focus on this. You're trying to do that big existential dilemma and still make sure kids have field trip permission slips signed and lunches are packed and you're showing up and nailing a presentation at work and your laundry's done and all of that stuff. So I think it's a great thing for people to read, not only because it's a wonderful story, but also you can see yourself in the book. And people read, this for lots of reasons. They read to escape, they read to learn. They read to see themselves. And you said it in the bio is that you don't want people to feel alone. And so what you've done with this story is a tremendous gift to people, to readers.
Thank you. And that means a lot to me, Jen, because that's honestly, that's what I hope. I hope there are readers that want that because that's what I wanted to give them. I wanted them to see themselves, to feel honored and loved and celebrated, and to feel like they're in it with other people because people kind of keep these things close to their chest, right? So your friends, and it's something I even touch on a little bit on the book. We don't know half the things that our dearest friends are going through, and so to be able to at least befriend these two women, and it's totally transparent everything that they're going through and thinking, that's what I wanted to gift to readers. And in a world of escapism and romantasy, I'm just like, I hope there's an audience for.
Absolutely, there is. It makes me think about the question is it because we're so busy? Is it because we're kind of conditioned to think that, we can have it all and that nobody says like, oh, I'm not busy. Nobody says, oh, I'm sitting on my, sofa and I'm binging Netflix while I'm folding laundry. Nobody ever says that, right? It's, I'm so busy. I've got this project and that project. And when you don't know some of your best friends, it kind of begs the question, like, do we need to slow down? How do we slow down? What questions do we ask? And that shows up a lot in the book, of Allie and Carmen trying to have conversations, and they're just very fractured and short. And that's hard.
It is so hard. It is very, very hard. It's hardest with the people that are closest to us. I know one of the things I struggled with this book, which was cathartic and healing for me, but was brought to my attention was how unlikable the characters can be. And that was important for me because I think the people who are closest to us, who know us the most, can hurt us the most. They can weaponize some of the things that they know about us in a moment. Not that they would do that all the time, but when they need to, or when they feel triggered, or when they feel hurt, they can hurt us the most. So I don't know if that's some like self-protective thing, but also, yeah, it is a really fascinating thing. And it is that, just even my friends and the women that I know, that I'm trying to understand them better, and they unfold for me, and they have been unfolding and slowly opening up. And a lot of that stuff was the conversations that we were having as we were stepping into a more authentic space together. And it's a kind of like a Brene Brown, marbles in the jar. It's like, can I trust you with this?
Yes.
Can I trust you with this? And that takes a lot of intention and a lot of care and a lot of deep conversations. And not all our friendships and relationships are there.
Right. And that's okay. I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, so absolutely. Well, am I adding, to your jar of marbles, or am I, pretty much dumping them on the ground, right? And I think about it, and initially when you read the book, and Carmen's, incredibly busy with this, high-powered job, which she loses, and we know that early on in the book, so that is not a spoiler. And she's got, she's pregnant, she's got another one. And Allie kind of feels left out because Carmen can't ever really talk to her for long periods of time, and she's going through tough stuff and feels like Carmen is not there. And then I started to think about it from Carmen's perspective and how sad she must feel that she can't be there or give her friends the time that they need, because kids being little and not quite self-sufficient grown-ups, it's a challenge. And so being able to see it from both perspectives in this book, I think is really helpful. And I appreciate the fact that you talked about the group of friends that you have and kind of stepping into being more authentic. I think about Brene Brown, and when things are tough, you want to armor up and not show somebody the stuff that's really close to you, and how isolating that feels. And at the same time, some of the friends that you tell that stuff to and they don't add that marble to your jar, is tough too. Whole like sense of belonging that is just so important in lives. I mean, we're human beings. We're designed to, be connected to one another.
Yeah, it is. It is so fascinating. Yeah, it was a really cool experience because Allie was um, a composite. I feel like both of them, although, on the outside I look the most like Carmen, she looks the most like me, but they were really composite characters of, all the moms that I know and all the single friends that I have, and the questions I had about my own life and my own trajectory, but also the questions I had for the friends that are living very different lives from me. And, it started with a question. It's just like, why does she always pick the jerk? Like, how come I can see all the red flags and she's going for it again? And it was that question. And the only way I could authentically tell that story was to really become her and live her and find the parts of myself that match up with her. Through that grew a lot of compassion in understanding and really listening to those women um, and hearing what they were struggling with and how they feel when they're with their friends. Yeah, it was like so cool. It was a really great experience.
It's so multi-layered and so nuanced. How we act with some people is different than how we act with others. And there were moments where I truly, and I think most readers will agree that they wanted to shake Allie. And like, you're so smart, you're so bright, you're so talented. But I guess the great thing about you all as writers is that you allow us to see inside a character's thought process. It helps to understand a little bit about why they're doing what they're doing, which doesn't necessarily always help with our friends in real life. We find ourselves going, "What are you thinking?" But we don't ever really ask that.
Yeah, uh, yeah, totally. Yeah, it was so fascinating. And the other thing that was really funny was, I found myself, another thing that kind of inspired it was like, when I would get together with my girlfriends and they were talking about the guys that were letting them down, and I was talking about my bosses, my bad bosses, horrible bosses, and the work. I'm like, you we both have bad boyfriends. You know what I mean? Like, you talk about him the way I talk about. And so we are both on some kind of personal development like journey where we have some stuff to work out. And actually, even though it's circumstantial, it looks very different, deep down inside of us, the parts that we get to heal are actually more similar, like, or more like than not.
I think that's the great thing if we take the time to slow down a little bit. The other thing that you brought up in this book is Allie's dating this guy named Sam. And Sam kind of is that like super good looking, suave, kind of knows all the in places to go. And for him, it's about being seen and being noticed. And I just think how that adds another layer to the relationships that we have in life. And then I guess the question is, how does social media play a role in all of that? How carefully we curate our feeds to reflect something that is probably not quite the same experience that's being posted.
And I have been shocked again. Like, when I had I was going through personal development after I had already sketched out this book, but through the revisions, I was doing a lot of personal development. And my mind was completely blown for some people that I know that had such perfect feeds. And then to find out that wasn't true and you're my friend, and how come I don't know this about you? You know what I mean? And even today, I mean, there's little glimpses, little shares, little by little as we evolve, as our relationships and friendships evolve and we grow up and grow older. Yes, the appearances, we never really know what's happening behind the doors in the neighborhood. And you never really know what other people are dealing with.
So true. I like how you refer to it as personal development, right? This growth that you're experiencing. And I guess the question is, what is it that made you want to grow versus just the acceptance of this is just how it is? Some people will just continue to do the same thing. And then you're an individual, this fantastic human being that decides this is personal development and I'm going to learn from this experience.
Um, so definitely a striver. Like, I definitely have like all that hunger to prove myself it used to be to prove myself to be successful, and now it's a different driver. Something that's always pushing me forward to uncomfortable places, even prior to personal, just like getting a job that's like really scary, but like just having this compulsion to do the thing that is scary and dangerous and risky. And I don't know where that
Little
comes from.
daredevil.
Yeah, a little bit of that, right? And I'm also pretty stubborn when I get something in my head like you, oh, I'm doing this and nothing is going to stop me. And so it was only after I'd been fired and restructured and laid off enough times, I'm like, maybe it's time for me to do a wholesale pivot here. And then I went into entrepreneurship, which was perfect for me. And as my husband would say, he's like, nobody in your family can work for anybody. So like that was definitely where I belonged. But I got into personal development because I had a business coach first. I hired a business coach to help me with my business. And then the business coach recommended this personal development program. So it was really just to get better at my business and fix, quote unquote, whatever was in my way or whatever was stopping me from being in doing and having what I wanted. And then once I got into it, there was a bunch of other things that, again, that it supported me with. Like, I knew I wanted to move forward with this book. I knew I wanted to publish it. And I knew that was going to require me to be more public facing. And I was like super shy. I was like really, really, I never wanted to be the magazine editor. I wanted to be the right hand woman. I did not want to be in the spotlight. I'm a writer. We are by nature, I think, a little bit more introverted, a little bit more
Just like
behind the scenes.
librarians. Yeah. Librarians
Yes,
tend to be
right,
a little
right.
bit more
Like we like
introverted.
to kind of exactly. And so it was wonderful for helping me, step out and feel safe. I think that's really what it was to feel safe enough that nobody could hurt me, that I was more resilient than whatever feedback might come from being disposed.
I think that's awesome. I think all of us have that little self-doubt, and it's, what can you do to kind of quiet that and to take that risk and to feel safe? So that tells me that you have good people around you that support you and encourage you. So I think that's incredibly important. I'm just impressed. And I also think, it comes up in this book, there's a line in which I've always kind of talked about. There's a difference between running from versus moving towards. And you're so big as this narrative strategist of the stories people want to tell, as well as the stories we tell ourselves. And if you flip it, it's a lot more empowering to be moving towards something than running from, because it's kind of like wherever you go, there you are. So you haven't learned anything if you're just constantly running.
Yes. Yeah. 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 I really love chasing one dream or challenge or overcoming something. Michael Haig, he's a screenwriting coach. And I got to interview him years ago about storytelling. And he would say that all stories are really about overcoming fear.
Hmm.
And I think that that's maybe ultimately what's underneath every goal of mine is to overcome some kind of fear and not let fear get in the way of my joy.
It's not easy. I mean, it's easy to say, it's a whole other thing to practice it. So I applaud you for being that daredevil, to not let fear stop you from coaching others to tell their story, from writing this debut, from your podcast, all the things that you've done. I mean, not including being a mom to 4 kids. I mean, that's not an easy job either. And I'm struck by a line that Carmen says in your book, that she knows now that even if she breaks something, even if things fall apart, she can put them back together again. That I want that like as a cross stitch sampler somewhere.
Thank
I think it's
you.
wise. I think we have to know we're capable of more and trust the process a little bit. It's not always easy because that self-doubt creeps in. And then depending on who you're surrounding yourself with, the messages and the feedback or the, in my opinion, that comes at us, it's like, well, then you do it. You try it.
100%.
Yeah. So
Thank you for that. Yeah, and that line actually came in so late. It came to me so late, and it was so perfect. It meant so much to me. And yeah, there's the voice inside of us that wants to keep us safe. wants to keep that little 5-year-old safe. And there are the parents that want to keep us safe. And my God, do I ever struggle as a parent to want to keep my kids safe? And they keep trying to tell me that they're more resilient than, I'm giving them credit for.
Right.
And the friends that want to keep us safe. But there is that crabs in a bucket effect, right? Which is also just bringing other people down and not holding them high, that they are resilient, that like they might screw up, they might fall, they might make a mistake, and they will get back up again. And we all will. We all do.
Yes. I was talking to somebody recently about like a little hiccup I had, and they just said, "Look, Jen, this is just a blip. It's no big deal. You have so much evidence if you look back to show that you're capable." And so I just thought that's a really interesting perspective, because our minds tend to catastrophize, right? And it's like, oh, well, this happened, so now this is going to happen. And next thing you know, so many cycles later, and it's like, wait a second, no, I know how to fix this. Like, I know how to learn from it and do better. So I just think it's such an important lesson. And I'm sure I'm hoping it's going to hit a lot of people right here. I'm on a podcast, so you can't see, but like right smack in your chest. Like, if you know that, would you do more things? Would you take more risks? And I'm hoping, I'm curious to see how the people that read the book and then decide, okay, you know what? I too can pivot. I'm going to change my career, or I'm going to step back, or I'm going to try this. Hoping it does that, shows people that it's possible.
So, I had a podcast a long time ago, and it was inspired by, I was so fortunate to have a lot of cool people in my life and to meet a lot of cool people that were doing things that I would tell myself is not possible or not possible for me. And they were somebody I would look to, and I would be able to say, knock it off, Kat. If she can do it, you can do it. Like, she is,
Right.
you could like reach out your hand and touch her. She is a human being. She had similar job as you. They come from similar backgrounds. Like, that doesn't hold. So I was so fortunate to have them, and I really wanted to share that for other people if they didn't have that. But yeah, and it's scary. I know that, I've sat with women that I really love and care about when they were making life changes decisions, when they're, we're in midlife now, the stakes are so high. They're thinking about, this marriage doesn't really work for me anymore. And it's scary to hold somebody's hand. And sometimes even now I'm like, wow, did I lead them the right? did I did I get them to jump off a cliff? And I don't know, did we do the right thing together here? But ultimately I land at self-actualization. And I think if there's a reason that we're here in this lifetime, in this life, is yes, to be love and to give love and to receive love, but also to fully self actualize. And that can mean breaking relationships, and that can mean quitting jobs. And that's the price we pay so that we can be as fully realized as we can in the body and in the manifestation that we are in this lifetime.
I mean, that what you do with the time and the space and who you do it with, I think is what makes up a life. And so I see it in playing out with these two characters, Carmen and Allie, who are terrific, each in their own way. And then when they're together, and I think about how they kind of question whether or not they can be more than their history or more than their past self, which I think is also something that sometimes stands in our way.
100%. Every day when I'm awake, when I'm paying attention, every day is an opportunity to confront that. Even this morning, thinking, this is what is in front of me and this is what's available to me. And then reminding myself that that is just in this moment, but it doesn't mean that in the next moment, more is not available and more is, you know what I mean? Like, you
Right.
can only just see this like one step ahead of you, but that doesn't mean that everything changes after you take that step.
It reminds me of, is it the story of the horse and the boy, where they're going on a journey and it's like, just take the next step, because he doesn't know how he's going to find his way through. And we do things, very rarely is it a huge, giant leap, but there are times where you just take the next step, and the next step is normally doable and manageable. And then it's the next step after that. And before you know it, you have, whether you say achieved or realized or self actualized, that part of your life. So I think there's such wisdom in what you say in terms of self actualization. And if we just kind of slow down a little bit to listen to ourselves, makes a difference,
Yeah.
makes a real
Yeah,
difference.
and when you're living on the edge like that and um taking the chances and 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 really going for it, then you have no choice but to confront those things. But it's a wonderful opportunity to overcome those limiting beliefs and past stories and histories and self concepts, which are really an illusion, breaking through that illusion so that you can be this magnificent soul that you really are.
I think it's so important. And, I know I talked a little bit about being more than our history. I also think we have to look at the things that we have done to show us that we are capable of more. It's that little next step, little next step. And like you thought, oh, I would never be able to do this. But okay, think about people who decide one day they're going to run a marathon. But incredible accomplishment. It's not something I'm able to do, but they don't just get up and run 26.2 miles. I mean, they start. And so I think there's lessons. And I think about you as all the work that you do with people as the narrative strategist and how many people you're helping and coaching and the wisdom that you give them. Imagine it kind of shows up in your characters, Ellie and Carmen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm laughing because yesterday I didn't have time for a workout and I'm really committed to like um uh addressing the damage I've done over the winter, Canadian winter. I'm like looked at it and I'm like, what have you done? So okay, I didn't have time to work out yesterday. So I'm like, okay, I've got like 3 minutes. I'm just gonna dance. And I didn't warm up. And I like pulled my calf muscle. It's still so there's
No,
like a lot of wisdom in just like warming up one step at a time. You cannot go from zero to hero in a flash. You'll pull something. You're gonna get hurt.
exactly.
And yeah, it, the other thing that's really interesting is that a lot of the people that I work with, it's just scary to do anything brand new. A lot of them are amazing and incredibly successful in whatever they did. But if they're a first time author, they're a first time author, and it's terrifying. So yeah, doing anything new is scary, and then to your point, that's how you stack up this proof of concept, and for a long time, early on, when I was like really taking that like some big chances for the very first time, right? Really stepping away from the script. I carried around those affirmations and I would write more down every day. And it was just like, I had a baby and it's still alive. That really counts, you know? And this person said something really nice to me and I'm a good person. And like, I had all these things like literally written down and I would remind myself of them. And to a certain extent, probably my morning practice still is a reminder of what's working, whatever affirmation, whatever reminders that I need is still very much part of my morning practice just to set me up for the day and to build up the courage to, get out of bed and go get it.
What does that morning practice look like for you besides the affirmations to start your day off and get out of bed?
Yeah. Man, it is evolving all the time. Right now, it's probably starting with the Bible app and then with prayer, which is really, it's really a reflective time for me where what am I grateful for? And so that's a reminder of everything that has worked, all the times that I've felt supported, all the miracles, just knowing that I'm not alone in this and God's got my back and God cares and I've overcome things before and I can overcome them again. So having that opportunity every morning to be in gratitude of everything I've been through and everything I've overcome, and then also confronting, like, what am I afraid of? Like, what am I freaking out about today? And where do I need help? And where do I need kindness? And calling that in one way or another. And then, depending on how early the morning is, then I have like a little bit of vision, a little bit of flirting with the future. So I do have like a vision board.
I was going to
I play
ask.
some music. Yeah, I actually learned late that music or like sound is actually an important part of that experience. So I added some music to that, and I just kind of like, yeah, just kind of like thinking about what I want to happen and getting excited about that. Again, to give me energy to do the hard stuff that comes before that. So reminding myself what I want, why I want it, why it matters, and being so excited that that's more important than the scary part. I think those are two really key practices for me always.
Sounds very thoughtful and intentional. And then it also kind of makes me think a little bit about kind of the hyper awareness that if I say something to like an orange car, because we're talking about it right now, you're going to leave and you're going to see like 3 of them on the road, but you might not have noticed them before. So the fact that you're leading with gratitude and that is what your focus or you're hyper aware of, I think is such a positive thing. And then leads you into the, what it is that you're looking to do. Naming the fear, I think, is probably the hardest thing, but it also is the thing that sucks that energy out of fear is once you name it.
Sad.
And then I look at like, well, clearly it's working for you because look at all that you've accomplished with your business and your podcast and your book, and think of all the people that you've helped overcome that fear because you've experienced it yourself. So that sense of doing something new is scary. It's a whole lot less scary when you're doing it with somebody else who's been there, who understands it, that you're not just like some of the books, the self-help books you read. Well, of course, like you made millions off of this. So it's really easy for you to just leave your job and no big deal. And you're going to leave and you're going to travel. Like not all of us have that capacity yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's true. I mean, I remember when I was again in personal development, then I stepped into coaching, and I remember just feeling like so inadequate. I'm like, I have not had enough training. I am not perfect. I have not built the business to the point that I should be giving anybody advice. And I just remember our trainer at the time was just like, it's perfect. Like whoever is placed in front of you is the person that you can get to in a way nobody else can. And that was proved to me enough times that I realized, my first book coaching clients, like I had not even published a book yet. And I'm like coaching somebody to help them with their book. And it was also perfect because I was able to go to places with them because of things that we had in common. And just, yeah, just knowing that we're here and we all have an opportunity to contribute. I think a lot of people underestimate how much they can contribute or what contribution looks like. And more important, yeah, of course, I want to create an experience and nurture as many people as I can with my book. And I would love for it to be a bestseller, like whatever. But
But just manifest that. It will be a bestseller.
yes, it will happen. Exactly. But something is like, even with the authors that I support, I'm like, I just help one person and then their book can help thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. And so it's not my contribution that's touching hundreds of thousands or millions of people, but I'm touching one person and that person is making a difference for so many people. So we all can contribute and we're all more powerful than we think in the ways that we relate to one another and our interactions with different people. And we can really make a difference for people.
I wholeheartedly agree. And it just makes me think about Brene Brown again, about being vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable and your authentic self, people will show up for you. People will hold space for you. And sometimes it's somebody just holding space as you talk through and process, for lack of a better word, kind of what's going on and arriving at the solution. But that's a powerful thing for us just to show up for one another. Imagine if we did that all the time, how amazing things would be, or even more amazing things would be, I should say.
It is. It's amazing. I was just popped on Instagram for a second this morning, and the first one that popped up was a friend of mine, and she had lost somebody, and she was talking about presence, and it just is a reminder that like the greatest gift we can give anybody is just presence. It's just being in that moment with them. It's so hard. I'm in my head all the time. I'm in the car with my kids and there's 20,000 different conversations happening in my head. But it's the ultimate. The present moment is perfect. And it's the greatest gift we can give anybody is just being in that moment with them.
Agreed. So well said. Such wisdom. So not only is your book going to be a bestseller, but I just think your business is going to explode because so many people are like, I want Kat to coach me. I want Kat to help me strategize this particular story. So that's going to happen too. And I can
Great,
say,
because I got 4 kids to put through college, so it can't come soon enough.
that's exactly right. But I think how many of us just feel stuck at times. And hopefully seeing Ellie and Carmen in their journeys and the things that they do gives other people that sense to kind of reckon with that fear that they have, that there's more. I mean, I changed careers. I went to grad school later in life, and people are like, but you're going to be such and such many years old. I was, well, God willing, I should be such and such many years old then anyway. Might as well be doing something I want to do on my way to that age. It's the best thing I ever did. I wish I would have done it sooner, but it's just part of my story, part of my journey. So I applaud people
It's
who,
incredible.
yeah, that's such a
It's
cool thing.
incredible.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
I
talk to
love
you.
that. Like I love that story. I love that story about you doing that pivot. That is massive. That was a
Yeah,
massive pivot.
I have people that encouraged me, and I have incredible parents that said, we won't let you fail. Didn't need them in that way, but it was just that safety net to be able to say, yes, I'm going to take this big thing. I'm going to go to grad school and I'm going to work full time and just pivot. But then that means when you pivot, you start back and you have to kind of work your way back up again. But when you're doing something that you feel you were meant to do, it makes a whole big difference. I'm so glad that you take that time every morning to to ground yourself, to reflect, and then figure out the trajectory from that point on. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love all of it. And the other thing well, two things. So as far as personal development books, one that I really love that really meets people in this moment is The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks. And because I see that all the time when people are at that inflection point and they're standing on the edge and they're like, it is the big leap. It's a big leap of faith. And so I really love that book. And I see that all the time with the people that I work with, right? Like
Right.
they're just at that moment of negotiation and hesitation. And I'm seeing all the stuff that they're working through in that split second, all the stories, all the histories, anything anybody ever told them, every living belief, all of it's right there in that moment. And then I just push them. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
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 And but the other really cool thing about the work that I've done and writing books and helping other people tell stories and the beautiful, beautiful work of art that is our lives is that everything is perfect. There are no mistakes. And you building the life that you built before, and then you completely doing a 180 or a 360 and completely pivoting. Like everything you did before makes you better, stronger, more effective in your new transition in the new space. So I just see everything always building and building and none of it, when I look back at my history and it's like that was not a mistake and everything that I learned and every skill that I acquired, every experience that I had makes me more effective of what I do today. And so in a crazy, crazy way, it was all meant to be.
Absolutely. And that comes through in the book that I think it's Carmen that's kind of struggling, and Allie says to her, you're not Superwoman. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And to trust that that's just part of the process. So such wisdom that you communicate, in your work and in this book, and in a way that's enjoyable. And I have to say that the sticker that you sent that says like, I'm extremely exhausted, like existentially, I was like, oh my goodness, there's somebody who knows me, like somebody who knows me very well. But no, such a relatable thing. And maybe the gift is not only becoming a bestseller, but in reaching people in an entertaining way, but allowing people to kind of maybe pause and think about what it is that they're afraid of, or thinking about maybe a different way to show up for their friends and their support circle, whatever that looks like. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we're at the end. I talked to you the whole rest of the day. So this is Stories End, final 5 questions. What is something that is always part of your writing routine?
Music. Music gets me in the mood.
Perfect. When you're feeling overwhelmed, what is your go-to hack?
Is a prayer. Again, that reflection of how reminding myself of everything I've been through and have overcome. I talk to God a lot. I give him shit. I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
I give him shit.
We're going to have some conversations if I make it there. Yeah.
Words, man. And just being able to like talk it out with, in somebody invisible and coach myself,
You have a lot of fun pop culture references in this book, just because you've looked back on the ages when Carmen and Allie were in middle school and high school together. Obviously stuff that resonated, talking about watching Saved by the Bell, Sweet Valley High books. It's just like, oh my goodness, such great things. So Saved by the Bell, favorite episode or character?
Oh God, oh man, I wanted to be Tiffany Amber Tyson. I'm like that kind of girl. I just like, I'm Latina. We're just not made like that. But it's like, oh man, in another life, can I be her?
Right. Absolutely. When you read a book, do you ever read the ending first?
No, I am a good girl.
Good. There's some people that read it first, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? No. And then the final question, what song is always on a road trip playlist?
Good question. I mean, I think the standbys are Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Pixies.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the standbys. But Shins is coming up for me in this moment because I think that's good club music too.
Absolutely. I just have to watch my speed when I'm listening to them. It's really easy to go a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So a huge thank you to those of you who are listening, and even bigger thank you to Kat Margulis, who is just a phenom. Her debut novel, which is going to be a bestseller, again, Only More Like You, is available now. If you want to experience a range of emotions, from laughter to funny and tender and heartfelt moments, you will love the journeys of both Carmen and Allie, and how the bonds of friendship are the strongest when we least expect it. It's like reading a hug. More about Kat can be found at katmargulis.com. To find out who else will be a guest on Story to Count, go to storytocount.com. It's a Story to Count with Jen Jumba.
Thank you. That was so fun.